Okay, so welcome to another live stream. It's not going to be a very long one. You don't really need to see me doing repetitive tasks, so I'll just show you what I was working on just before. So I've basically been starting on the towns in Excel. So why is it not coming up? I don't know. There we go. That should be it there. And it doesn't like us. Alright, there it is. Right. So I'll just zoom out. So we've got the rebuilt map. So this one here is a Samrajay style fortification. This is a town. This is what it looks like in its rebuilt. Well, it's when I say rebuilt. So this is 1,000 years later. Some of these buildings are not the best condition, but any of the wooden structures have been built, since War of the Gods, and most of the other aspects of it have been rebuilt to a certain extent. So what I've done is I've just taken this one here and then I've duplicated it and then created the ruin map. And so just before I decided I'd better get this done, I have been working on getting this sorted out. So I think that I covered this in a previous video, so there's no reason I need to do it again for you, because this kind of repetitive thing gets a bit boring. It's boring for me. I mean, I listen to some music, or I was just watching a doco on Scarpa Flow and the Royal Oak being sunk at the very beginning of the Second World War. If that might seem like a boring subject, but yes, the ridiculousness of not taking it seriously when you get hit by a torpedo, and then just letting people stay in their bunks while, I mean, it's just a little bit ridiculous that was something that happened. And anyway, enough of that. So what I'm doing right now is simply just, I think I've talked about this before, which is I'm trying to get the ruin effect onto these maps without, really without having it look like it's artificial. I mean, look, we have to zoom in quite a bit. The scale of this map is that each one of these squares is a foot, so 1 foot by 1 foot. And as you can see, as you probably I haven't explained in this video, I'm just going to minimize that. Alright, so I'm not sure if you can see it, and I'll try to no, it did show up before. Maybe it's because of that. Okay, so that's that. Alright, there's the notes from the wall. Now, I'm not sure if I explained this previously, but each wall section has this little note. So when you look at it, you can see that there's a little red arrow in the corner. I haven't quite worked out how to remove that little arrow from the map. If anyone knows, then that'd be great. But effectively, that little arrow is indicating that there is a comment associated with this cell. So each of these cells has a calculation, so that the actual amount of hit points that a section of wall has, I have a calculation for that. Each one of them has a comment. For example, what we've got right here. In addition to that, once I do a copy and then a paste values, what it will do is it will generate, it will create the number of hit points, and it will be fixed in stone, no pun intended. As for the water, I thought that I had, but I thought that I had put in comments, but maybe I didn't, because really that red corner is really distracting from the appearance. Anyway, so the depth of the water is a variable that I've put in there as well. So effectively all water, all stone, all these things that in a live environment, you really want to be able to. You don't want to have to go back to the writer of the story and say, "Oh, how strong is the wall?" Instead, the strength of the wall was determined, at the time of the construction of the town, like when it was first built. In terms of first built, in terms of like me building it. If anyone wants to create their own, then really they can go sourcing the strongest stone there is. They can just like any other piece of kit. They might want to ask a stone worker to find them some really cool stone, some stone that's basically strong as houses. So they could search high and low until they find stone that is going to be as strong as they can get it. They might pay more for it, but if it means that there's another dimension of security, then maybe it's worth it. So anyway, so what I'm doing right now is just tidying up, the appearance of the ruin map. Now I've basically decided that all the nice flagstones and things like this, there's rubble everywhere. So I just generally grab a few cells, and then as you can see, it's created like a line there. So I generally just try to break it up and make it look a little bit more organic, things like that. Then we're going to need to try and do the same thing again with well, didn't quite work out just then, so we're going to go 11 by 11. There we go. So that, right, sorry. So when you do a paste, you need to do a copy again. Yeah, you need to do a copy again. So I've just pasted it. If I was to try and do Control V again, it's going to spit the dummy. But if I do Control C, then it copies it without trouble. Not quite sure what happened with this little step out here. Look, I think we need to refer back to the rebuilt map at the same location. Ah, there we go. Looks like there was a wooden building there. Look, I'm not really happy with that. I mean, I know that these people have been living in relative peace for quite a long time. For them to... I know that we've got another one here. Look. Yeah, look, I don't know. It's not that bad. The main... What I was trying to say is the moat is there for a reason, and for there to be a building protruding from into that moat, reducing the actual width of the moat, seems to me a bit, well, silly to be taking liberties with the security of the structure. But anyway, moving on. So again, I needed to do 11 by 11. So 11 by 11, that's that. And so forth. Alright. So that wasn't too bad. I mean, yes, it's got a bit of a line to it, but it's barely noticeable. Anyway, so this is not what I kind of brought you here for. So I'm just going to save this off. And I'm going to get out of that file. Too late. We've already started to save it, and as you can see, it's getting to be a bit of a big file. Nothing for it. So its current size for this town is, well, it's not big, 13k. So anyway, it's taking its time. I mean, there's a lot of calculations in here. So, I mean, the main thing is when people get given some of these maps for in-character reasons, for being able to organise their geopolitical moves and such, and for record keeping. Really, the calculation is going to be ended, so the size of the file will be reduced. I am considering whether or not I should make it so it's read-only, so that nobody can modify it. If you want to make modifications, you submit the modifications, and then I approve them, and they're added to the master. So I want to have a master document of every tower, every building. If somebody wants to incorporate lethal traps into a door, like make it so that anyone who comes to the door unannounced, blah blah, and if they want to have the gloves off, well, look, it's their place, it's their home, but it's part of the game world, and I need to make sure that it's fair, and that there's fair reasons for certain things. I'm not going to say no for. No, not for. I don't want to make it so that people can't have like freedom of choice for their characters and things like this. And really, if someone tries to break into their home in a high fantasy game world, where there's the potential to have, all sorts of lethal traps and things like this, well, it's sort of self-inflicted. So if someone is upset that their characters died because they decided to try and break into someone's tower, that's completely on them, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm just rambling, and so I wanted to show off the paint.net. So I want to show off on paint.net what we've done, but also I'm just going to open up the people and places version. So what I've done is I've split the paint.net into two pieces. The reason being that I don't want to. Now that is interesting. We've got towns and towns. Geoplayer people. So it looks like we've got one at the top and one at the bottom. So not really happy about that. So look, it may be that. Look, I have been mucking around with different versions of this layout. So I'll just explain. I've decided to have like the 4 towns, like this with no spaces in between. Reason is that I need to make space and make it so that I don't have to increase the size of the paint.net palette or the size of the file. It still allows room for refugees and immigrants into the area by going down here, but for the purposes of firstly for the purposes of a quarter, so quarterly gaming and things like this, to do it as a tournament, using the tournament map that I've created, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to need more than, what's that, 10 10 spaces for immigrants. So, I've left towns on farms. So it's extremely unlikely we're ever going to have a situation where that comes into play. So it's not something to worry about at the moment. So anyway, zooming in. So I think we talked about this previously, that when I zoom in too much, it becomes pixelated, but that's normal. But you can see it takes quite a bit to get it to pixelize. So we've got the standard sort of character layout there. Now, I think I don't know if I mentioned before, but these yellow cards, these are the title deeds to these locations. So my intention is that when I populate, one of the things I'm going to be doing is I will be doing this. I'll be cutting there. Well, I'll do it now. I'll do an example. So demonstration. So cut. Now you can see it's left that hole. Don't really mind at this moment. It's not really that important for what I'm trying to do. So I've done that, and now we're in the wrong file. So I've basically created this one document, and I realized that, hang on, it's just too unwieldy to have all of the layers that I really want to represent things. To have that in one document is going to be a pain in the neck. So I've decided to break into two documents. So one of them is going to be the tournament map, and it's going to have its own layers of information. So you can see how many layers it's already got. So it's getting quite big. And then the thing is, when it comes to me navigating around, it's not that hard for me to have the two of the two files open, and as I take people, go to the people and places paint.net file, as you can see, I just cut that one there, and I'm now jumping into the board one, which is the wilderness and ruin file. And I'm going to, for example, firstly I'm going to put in black over loot, and then I'm going to select loot. Then I'm going to go and click back onto the black over loot. Then I'm going to select the eraser tool. I'm going to make the eraser, let's say 100. Still not much. Let's keep going. So we'll go up to 300. Alright, that's a bit more visible. So I'm going to click once. Okay, now that just revealed something. Oops. Okay, it looks like it's could be an imp. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to show you. So this is the loot layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to maybe cut. No, that's not what I want either. That's a ruined tower. All right, let's just keep randomly. What have I done? Okay. What have we got there? Oh, promissory notes. Okay, so this is a promissory note for 28,189. So that does make a bit weird. Why is it so precise? Well, the idea being that you're basically trading in gear that is found in the field to a priest of trade, who's then offering a promissory note in lieu of you basically having a squabble over the value of things. It can be easily settled by the priest of trade, who swears that it's what the market value is on second-hand goods. It might end up being that you might be able to get a better deal, but for the geopolitical purposes, no, everything goes to the priest of trade, who then provide a promissory note. at the end of the geopolitical move, the survivors of the geopolitical move will then basically have a share of that loot. So by making this, it's kind of like a little bit in character, out of character. So yeah, there's reasons for it. So anyway, back to what I was trying to achieve before, which is I was cutting and then I was pasting into the loot, and there we are. So I've just cut and pasted that title deed to that hamlet into the loot file. So what that means is that anytime there's loot that's found, there is a chance that the title deed to a hamlet could be found. If the hamlet is occupied, then basically you become the lord. Just by that finding it, you become the lord of that hamlet. Of course, it depends if someone has a player character license. Then in order to take that, they would have to become a group faction licensee in order to do that. I mean, the main thing is it comes with more additional responsibilities, and I really need to make sure that people understand that with these responsibilities, it's not just a matter of getting all the privileges. Like, for example, the annual tax income for this hamlet is 120,000 silver pieces annually. That's what you get in terms of rent. So the baron of a province will get that amount in tax, but as the lord of the hamlet, you receive that portion as well in terms of rent. So you can justify it in all sorts of ways: body corporate fees, or council fees, or whatever you want to call it. But this is the income that is provided to whoever holds on to this title deed. So a little bit more on title deeds later. What else can I show off that I haven't before? Alright, so we'll get out of the loot, and I have to remember not to save this one. So Fog of War is engaged. We've got the map up, and we're now going to go to Geo Players. So Geo Players should be active. Geo Players, why is Geo Players not showing? Right, Geo Tokens. Right. We've got a Jigsaw. That's not going to help us. Okay. Back to the other one, Geo Players. Now, Geo Players should be... Alright, there we go. Okay, so Geo Players, for some reason, it's not on the other... It should be over here. So I think that I can simply... well, no, we're going to have to do this thing, which is select all, copy, go over here. Oops. That's okay, thinking about it. Okay, Geo Players, and make sure we're on the right one, and then paste. So I've just pasted the Geo Players. Now what I was going to show you was the previous one, which is that I have done the Geo Tokens. So Geo Tokens are there, so I'm going to select all those, and I'm going to paste them into here. Now they can go to the top of Geo Players as such. Alright, so I'm just going to do something else, which is I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to, well, I need to basically delete that layer. So delete that layer, delete that layer. So the Geo Players layer is no longer there. Geopolitical is there, but anyway, that's that. So I may as well close this down. Don't save that because, as I said, I've cut the thing, and then we've got the loot one. Okay. Alright, we did make a bit of a mistake there, but that's okay. Loot, black over loot, and we can show the loot layer. And I don't know if we can control Z, and no, it didn't do it. So, alright, doesn't matter. Go back to loot, and I'm going to black over loot, select all, and I'm going to delete the entire loot level layer, whatever. Now I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to grab paint the paint can, and I'm going to black out that entire section. Cool. Alright, so black over loot is still there, but the loot one is completely deleted now. Because look, I'm not going to muck around. I've basically got to this point. I've just deleted the layers off the other one. I want to keep this one. Anyway, what I was going to show was that I have created icons for each one of them. Now, in a face-to-face live quarterly, geopolitical game, in costume and with everyone, scheming amongst themselves in a live environment, the board is an out-of-character prop. Okay, it doesn't exist in the character. Effectively, what does exist is the orders that you give, the commands you give to have the moves carried out. So effectively, yes, you're making your own move, but you're doing it, via messages. You're not actually in the field participating unless you're actually taking the field. If you're taking the field, then you're doing everything yourself, moving your part around. It's the best I can do to do a live version of it. And because of COVID, that's why I developed the board game that could be used in a live stream environment for the exact same thing. So that, yes, in the perfect world, we'll be back to being able to have these face-to-faces, and that would be great. But in the meantime, for example, let's just say that this the Pro Samurai Rebels are going to, and I'm going to just copy that. Okay, so down here on the right hand side, I've selected the geo tokens. Then I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to go and I'm going to paste onto it. Where are we? All right. Add a new layer. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add a new layer, and this is going to be called the move layer. All right, just for the purposes of this. Okay, so move layer is there. It's active. Then I'm going to basically take this icon, and I'm going to basically stick it here. And so that is where this particular group are at the moment. So it could be that, yes, I'm going to use the eraser tool to erase the fog of war, but if they decide that they're base themselves here or here, now in the live environment, as I was trying to say before, but I got carried away with something else, these icons are massive. I only did them this big because I wanted to be able to show text, and so it may be that instead it could be that this is an opportunity to dust off some of those old fantasy miniatures. The fantasy miniature could be painted up in the colours of your faction or whatever you want to do, and they could be moved around and left on the board in between your your turns, but it could be that this can represent just in the meantime until then. What was the other thing I was going to be doing? So yes, another thing I was going to be doing was I was going to be creating, putting names. So I was going to have an in-character names of the locations. Okay, here we go. So people and places again. So I may as well open that up as well. Although, no, that was a bit silly. Alright, so instead I'm going to open up the overview file. Okay, going to the province overview file. Now this one here is okay. Alright, I was right the first time. Now where are we? Okay, so what I've got up here is the 4 towns. So we've got Capice, alright, right, okay, let me just see if we can zoom in a bit. Alright, yes we can, but it's not going to be perfect, so I'll copy that, swing back into Paint, then I'm going to check out and find it. Now there's the 4 towns, and I think that is the Saint-Roger town just there. And I'm going to right, may as well use the same layer as the there's the 10. I'll just click on that, and you can see that disappears. So as long as I don't go anywhere near the existing one, I shouldn't be creating a problem. Yeah, I don't want to type over the top of the actual graphic. Now there was a really cool font that wasn't too messy. 36 point, and I'm going to try and paste, and it didn't like it. What didn't it like about that? I'm not sure. I'll undo it, what I did anyway. Okay, it's not perfect, it's not what I really wanted to do, but it is kind of working. I can just cut that. Look, it's not perfect, but I can just copy directly from Excel and then paste it in, and it's kind of visible from a distance, and it doesn't necessarily interfere too much with the map. In the live environment, it's not going to be possible to do it this way, because I mean, really the whole map should be available for movement. So excuse me, I can try and do that and just have it off into the water. That might help. Yeah, we'll I'll leave it there for the moment. It's not really a problem. What else can I show you while I'm at it? Yeah, so got the wilderness encounters. So all the wilderness encounters are here. I've decided to incorporate immigrants into the mix. So when you're out doing your geopolitical moves, you might find some immigrants, and some of these immigrants might need a home. So they need to be escorted to a location where they'll be safe. So that's that. As I said, I'm in a previous live stream. That's the size of a town. So this one's a Renegade town, and as I said before in Excel, those little triangles are where the comments are, but because I've pasted it as effectively it's pasting an image file into paint.net. So when you copy a Excel document and paste it, it just does nothing but it strips away everything. So there's no numbers associated with any of these cells. All that sort of stuff's gone, and really what we're left with is pure, like just purely an image. So my intention is to have the towns, villages, hamlets, and farms. It may be that I don't have them on this. It doesn't need to be on the wilderness and ruin. What I might do is actually put the ruin ones here. Now it says ruin town, and I think I've just done that as a reminder. But I might just delete that now so that I don't forget again. I've left it there, but it's kind of counterproductive, because if the objective was for me to remember or as a reminder, it's failed because I didn't realise that I hadn't put ruined ones up there. So anyway, it's no big deal. I'm just going to leave the layer intact, but I'm going to strip away and take out the imagery, but just leave them black, and then I can go in there and I can finish off what I was supposed to be doing. What was the other thing? Urban encounters. So what I've got is that was the other thing I was going to show you. So this is kind of exciting. I had a really good time with this one. So the reason that I'm excited about this is that I've now incorporated. This is the ruined Daquin hamlet of Gidunkonges. Okay, not really good pronunciation. So, but anyway, the fact that says it's a Daquin Imperial Hamlet Ruin Undead. Well, why is it saying that? It's supposed to say something better than that. And looks like this is the old version. Alright, well we'll do that right now because I'm really excited about what I've just realised I can do. So this is the this is all the undead in there. This is all the undead for the towns, villages, hamlets, and farms that are undead infested. And what I've decided is if it's not undead infested, say for example these 4 towns, they're occupied. But all these undead, all these skeletons, they're not undead at the moment. They're basically dormant, and these are in the crypt of the town. So all the skeletal remains for all these are groups of 20. So there's a lot of skeletal remains, and so these ones are currently in the crypt of the. Anyway, so here's the Excel version that I've done, which shows the town. It doesn't just say that this is just undead. it specifically says which town these skeletal remains come from. So if you are taking the undead infested town of Caplice, and you take all these skeletal remains, and instead of rebuilding the crypt in Caplice, if you take the skeletal remains from Caplice and put them into the Genesee crypt, if someone disturbs the Genesee crypt, the skeletal remains from Caplice are going to leave. They're going to fight their way or push their way or whatever, get out of Genesee, and they're going to cross country to get back to Caplice. So when I have created when I've done this really cool upgrade to by just including this referral calculation that I've whacked in here, yeah, it just makes it so that whenever there's an incursion and the skeletons have risen, it's very real consequences for those who need to, who are in the way between between the skeleton and the place where they died. So anyway, I'm copying that. Then I'm jumping back into paint.net, and then I'm going to select all, delete, paste. So now we should have the entire layer of these awesome cards. So yeah, the main thing is, like, I'm excited. I'm not sure if that was confusing for anybody, but I'll just say in a nutshell that when you if you go into an undead infested town, and you smash the undead, and you bundle up all their skeletal remains, that you are responsible for the placement of those skeletal remains. So if you treat them with disrespect, it comes back on you. If you don't bury them with respect, if you don't put them in a safe and secure environment, all those things, it comes back to bite you. So all these remains, if they were taken to any of these other towns, villages, hamlets, or farms that have a crypt intact, if that crypt is not defended, then all those skeletal remains are going to be heading back. And it doesn't matter if it's like hundreds of miles. That's skeletons that are on the move that will basically abduct people, take them with them. And so yeah, it's just something to consider. Just that one little tweak has really made it has enabled me to. I always wanted to make it so that players were responsible for how they disposed of the skeletal remains, and how they intern them and things like this. But in terms of making it enforceable, it's very difficult. So effectively, when you draw one of these cards, when you're assaulting a town or a village or a hamlet or a farm, that these skeletal remains remain in your possession, and they're effectively, well, let's just call it a liability. It's an honor bound. So anyway, some people don't care about showing respect for the dead, but in this particular high fantasy game world, you have to. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole heap of problems, because they won't stay down, they won't remain dormant, and things like that. Because the whole thing about the curse, it's wrapped up in respect, and the fact that they in death they never received any respect. So anyway, that's all I've got to show you right now. I'm just going to get out of this, and no, we don't do that. Okay, so that's that, and I can save this. I don't think there's anything else that jumps out at me. There's plenty of stuff that I've done, but it's all over the place. That's the stuff that jumps out as a huge success today, is this bit here, with allocating the undead and having them linked to a town, village, hamlet, or a farm. Anyway, I'm hoping that this didn't bore people to tears. If anyone's got any specific questions, feel free to send me a message or give me a call, and we can even do live stream calls. I'm thinking about inviting people to have a look at the page during the live stream, and I can show them around. So if anyone has any problems with me going too fast and moving over things too quickly, then I'm quite happy to effectively take them on a tour guide of what I've created in this environment, and try to explain a little bit better rather than rambling. I'm not reading off a script, so yeah, so sometimes it's difficult to stay on topic or get back onto topic when I've gone off topic. Anyway, all right, if there's any further questions, just as I said, message, phone call, whatever. And if you want to look at the website, that's renegadelarp.com, and there's a lot of information there